Nova.
She eating.
Uh-oh.
What are you doing?
She don't like it.
Oh, Faye.
So since Nova is pretty comfortable in her indoor house, I decided to make the measurements of her outdoor house about the same, which is 40 inches, well, about 42 inches long and about 30 inches wide and high. I won't pretend to tell you all the material you'll need up front because I was truly figuring out this thing as I go the entire time, just about. So here I'm starting with some boards that I've cut down to about that width that I was telling you about, 30 inches wide, and I simply cut enough so that it will be about 42 inches long. I was cutting and measuring and figuring it out as I go, and I wanted to have two 2x4s as my support boards, well, one on each side, so a total of 4. But because of Nova's weight, which is about 55 pounds, I wanted to add that extra 2x4 in the middle so that the center part doesn't kind of give or begin to droop over time or even feel uncomfortable as she's walking around inside the house. So I basically just screwed in along the edges and the center of the support boards just to attach those boards to the floorboards. So here I'm marking off my spaces for the 2x4s. I learned pretty much everything that I needed to know to build my 2x4 walls off my research on YouTube. So thanks to all the videos out there that really helped me figure out how to build these walls and how to space them out. I won't pretend that I know it well enough to try to share all the details with you, but that's how I did my measurements. And since I was doing this as I go, whatever was left over in the front, I just went ahead and pretended like that was supposed to be the porch, and it worked out well. So I didn't really have a specific method for building the walls. So I just pretty much used whatever I had, the wall in this case. And I was surprised at how difficult it was to screw in the screws and from the top part of the 2x4 into the support board, well, support 2x4. It flipped around and just kind of gave me a hard time. It was not as easy or fun as I thought it would be. Pretty aggravating actually, but I got through it. So I ended up going ahead and screwing in all 3 boards from one direction, well, the top or the bottom, I'm not sure which one it was. I think this was the even wall. Top and bottom are pretty much the same. I flipped it over, added the bottom piece, and repeated the process. At this point, I don't really want to secure the walls to the floor. I just want to put them in place and secure them just enough so that they stay in place while I figure out the rest of the project, including the front and back walls and how I want to angle them so that they connect. So my screw is going to be just long enough to kind of hold them in place for me, since I don't have another form of support. So I can't say it enough, but this was a really do it as you go, figure it out as you go project for me. So some of these pictures I'm just including so that you can kind of see my thought process for trying to figure out the next step. I searched YouTube for some ideas of how to build the house, and I kind of put together pieces of one video and pieces of another, and then just use my own ideas. I just refuse to buy a plan for this, but it was really a figure it out as you go. So pretty much what you see is just some ideas put together to build this doghouse, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas that can help you build your doghouse depending on exactly the style that you're looking for. So what I'm working on now is the roof. So my goal is to be able to take the roof on and off and not really secure it in a manner where I can't lift it. So I'm not going to try to slant it or open and close it. I'm just going to be able to remove it completely from the base of the house. What I did was kind of measured the insides of the walls and try to measure out where the insides could kind of like fit like a puzzle piece. I started off with the support boards in a vertical angle, which may work for you. I'll tell you why this didn't work for me a little bit later on down the road. I ended up having to remove those screws and change it from that vertical position to a horizontal position in order for it to fit. So here I'm trying to figure out my front and back walls, the angle, and how to cut them so that they match. I basically kind of put them together and drew a line for the slant instead of doing calculations, and it worked out fine for me. Here's why the vertical direction of my roof boards, well, the support ones, the ones that are anchoring it to the actual roof, they didn't work vertically because of the height that I built the front and back walls. So I ended up having to remove those screws and change the angle from vertical to horizontal so that it wouldn't, well, it would fit a little bit better. So at some point, I think maybe while moving my miter saw around, I pulled a muscle and learned the value of soliciting help just for even the minor lifting. So I saved the final assembly part of the project for the end. We brought the pieces up individually and had help with this. I didn't record all of that, but they are very heavy, starting to get very heavy, so I knew we didn't want to try to lift the entire house. This clamp became very, very handy for holding the walls together for me. I mean, it was a real game changer. I was able to use this to secure the walls with the screws with little effort. So at this point, I'm simply testing the sturdiness of the project, and I was fairly pleased, if I must say so myself. It was very heavy, appeared to be very strong, so I'm feeling kind of confident about the process so far and moving forward to the end of it. So this project took a lot longer than I anticipated. At this point, I'm working day and night just whenever I feel like going out and working on it. The panels, I was able to get them cut at Lowe's. However, they only cut make a certain amount of cuts for each panel, and I had to improvise with additional cutting and curves and angles. And so look, I don't advise you to try this at home, but I was just getting tired and doing kind of some reckless and careless moves maybe. I was just ready to get it over with. So I ended up with some jagged edges for some of the panels, but for the most part, that was pretty much the process that I used for getting my angles, and I ultimately did go back and fill it in the best way that I could. Wasn't perfect, but I was okay with it. So insulation was one of the priorities for me in building this home. I wanted it to be a place where Nova could feel some warmth and still have access to outdoors during the colder days. It took me so long to actually finish it. I was scared that winter might be over before I finished, but we were able to still get some cold days in. And I'm just now recording this during the spring going into summer, and it actually serves as a cool space as well. I wasn't sure how that would work, but she goes in it in the summertime or the warmer days too. For the most part, if it gets too hot or extremely cold, then she comes indoors anyway. But the insulation was one of the important features that I wanted to be sure to include. Most all of the wood for this house is treated. They all said not to go directly on the ground, which is not an issue because we keep the house on the porch. The only pieces of wood that was not treated was the panel and the trim that I used. I was unable to find treated panel at the time while I was building the project, so I kind of just went with what they had and gave it about 2 or 3 coats of polyurethane to add a little bit of protection from the weather. The trim, I couldn't find treated trim at the right size that I wanted, so I ended up doing the same process for the trim that you'll see at the end. So the total cost of this project was, I would say, maybe around $300, maybe a little bit more. However, I've seen houses that were already the pre-built houses that are insulated and this size, some even smaller, that ran for $500 or maybe a little more. So I'd say it was well worth it. Keep in mind that I'm still figuring this out as I go. This is a little trim for the roof. The goal is to kind of make it like a little top for the house and have somewhat of a secure fit. So this handheld saw really came through and saved the day for me in so many ways with this project. I used it to do trims, to do extra cuts, angles, just a lot of different things that I needed to get done. This made it happen for me. And against the caution of my daughter, who's raised Nova since she was a pup, I decided to buy a little padding for the inside. So I went ahead and secured this padding with a few extra screws to hopefully be Nova proof. So far it's worked well. It's been about 3 months now that she's been in there, maybe 4. And she's not destroyed it, so that's a plus. So here's the advantage that I love about being able to just take that roof or the lid completely off and be able to get in and out of the house. I'm not sure what all reasons I may need to get in and out of the house in the future, but I did want to make that option available. Finished with the cutting the excess material for the shingles, and this was the boring part of the process. I'm probably doing it wrong. I didn't even feel like to be honest filming it, but I'm just kind of showing you where I am now